Hey guys, so I made an interesting post yesterday sharing about the great cacao explosion of 2021, and I got a lot of messages from you guys in relation to this, especially because of some questions that I posed, and I actually felt like it deserved a little bit more information, because trauma and traumatic events lead to the narratives, the stories that we have in our minds about ourselves, about our lives, about the people that are in our world. And so I wanted to clarify a few things so that perhaps you guys can think about trauma maybe in a different light. And maybe you can sit with what are the narratives and stories that you're making up in your head that can change. So most people think that trauma is something that happens to you. So it could be a divorce or a breakup. It could be sexual or physical abuse. It could be losing a job. It could be death of a family member, on and on and on and on. There's so many different events that happen to us, but we associate that with trauma. And I want to specify to you guys that trauma isn't what happens to you. Those things are traumatic, but that's not the trauma. The trauma is what happens inside of you. What happens inside of you when those events happen, and how you view yourself in the world, how you relate to that in your life, and what that means to your world. So the actual trauma is internal. The events are traumatic, but what's happening externally isn't the trauma. So I wanted to clarify that first, so that maybe you can distinguish that trauma. Oh, look, a little wallaby. I couldn't show you guys, he moved too quickly. Aw, morning friends. He distracted me. So I feel like that's probably important to remind you guys, because trauma is always internal. The events are always external, generally. But then tying back into my share about the great cacao explosion that occurred in my home, that literally brought me to tears. It's funny how something so small can impact you, right? But then I shared in my story how one of my old narratives, so one of my own trauma responses from things that have happened in my own personal life, has resulted in me doing things on my own, has resulted in me only being able to trust myself. And I've been rewriting that personal dialogue and story for many years now. And in a beautiful twist of fate, Mama Cacao, in her infinite wisdom, was like, actually, you don't get to drink this, Alexia. You get to ask for help. And that was my sharing with you guys yesterday, that I could have perpetuated this old narrative, this old story in my head. But here was this beautiful opportunity to ask someone, could you please come and help me? I could use some support right now. And while it's a funny event and a simple event, the response I had from you guys was quite big, because it's like, wow, asking for help is a really big deal. And it is. And I think that little piece in relation to trauma is massive, because we feel like we have to do things on our own. We feel like we have to overcome everything on our own. And that's not how human beings are designed. We need one another. And we're not supposed to go through life on our own. And so, to tie all of that back in, I would love to keep this conversation going a little longer with asking for help, because so many people shared with me yesterday that asking for help is super hard, whether it's from partner, family, friends, getting a coach to support them through their shit, because it's tricky, it's challenging. Why can't I handle it all myself? Guys, you're not supposed to. I really just want to remind you that you're not supposed to. And it's not only okay to want and need help, it's imperative to life. So I'd love to hear from you more on perhaps how you felt about distinguishing trauma and traumatic, and how you feel about asking for help. Comment in or DM me. I'll chat with you guys soon.